How's it going, everyone? It's Adrian from TCG, and we're back with another video. So today we're going to be going over this new pre-release event for One Piece that's going to be running through the beginning of next month. This is, of course, going to be for Paramount War, which is the second set of the game. It's releasing on March 10th, so these tournaments are going to be running the week before, March 3rd through March 9th. And I wanted to go over this today specifically because on the official website, it says that player signups start on February 17th, which is today. So make sure you're just checking your BandaiTCG Plus app for that registration. And this pre-release event is going to be very different from the super pre-release that we had before the game came out. So I just wanted to talk about what the rules are going to be for this event, as well as a little bit of strategy to give you that extra edge on the competition so you could get that winner card. So with that being said, let's get into some logistics and get right into some details about the tournament, starting off with what you're going to be getting on that day. So of course, just for showing up to the event and playing in it, you're going to be getting a participation card, which is this promo smoker. This is a card that you can only get at the pre-release event, I think, because it's not in the regular set. It's a numbered promo card, so that's really, really awesome. It's pretty good too. It's if you have a Dawn under it, this character can't be KO'd by characters unless they have the special attribute, which is pretty funny and interesting because there's only like a set few character cards that have the special attribute. And on top of that, you're going to be getting a pre-release pack that includes 2 cards in it out of a 75 card pool, and it's just going to be the common and uncommon cards of the set, except they have this cool pre-release stamp on it that you can trade away. They're a little bit higher value in terms of card market. So it's a little bit hard to see, I know here, but these are all the cards that you're going to be able to get in this participation pack. I know personally for me, I'm definitely going to be wanting that Crocodile, that Gecko Moria, the Impel Down cards, the Boa Hancock, of course, even the one drops, the Little Oars Jr. Like, there's a ton of cool cards that you can get that have that cool pre-release stamp. So I know, just pause the video, see what cards that you like, but these are the cards that are going to be included in that participation pack. So of course, this is the winner card that you're going to get if you take the entire tournament. I am loving these like gold winner card stamps that they have for the pre-release events. I just got back my super pre-release winner card Luffy, and they just look honestly amazing. I forget how good they look. But yeah, let's get right into the rule set for this tournament, because it's going to be a little different, and it's the reason why like this tournament's not going to be normal. It's going to be very random and dependent on what you pull. So of course, like I said, this event's going to be very different from the super pre-release event. It's going to be following the One Piece sealed format, which we haven't had yet. So for those of you that don't know, these are going to be the rules of the event and tournament, just so you're prepared. I'll link the full rule set in the description, but this is going to be a summary of the rules and just to give you a basic idea of what you need to be prepared for on the day. Basically, with a sealed tournament, everyone gets the same amount of packs from the set, and then you're going to be constructing a 40 card deck out of the cards that you pull. That's why I say that it's like a lot of RNG. If you just pull like a lot of unplayable cards, you're probably not going to win the tournament on that day, versus if you pull like a ton of SRs that are super useful, or like you pull like a certain archetype that combos really well together, you're going to go insane on this tournament, right? But on average, that's probably not going to happen. There's probably going to be a lot of common cards going to be used, a lot of uncommons, maybe a couple of SRs that people pull, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty equalized, right? Because you're not running like a regular constructed deck where the cards like work very, very well together. But I wanted to talk about this like sideboard aspect. So you're going to have a 40 card deck, which is less than what we usually have, and then any extra cards that you pull that aren't in your deck are sideboard cards that you can use in between rounds. You could pretty much just swap out any number of cards anytime you want in between rounds between your sideboard and your main deck, as long as you have that 40 cards, that 40 card deck when you're actually playing your rounds. Now you might be asking yourself, what if I don't pull like enough of one color or 2 colors, if I have a dual color leader, or what if I don't even pull a leader out of my 6 packs? What do I do then? There's actually rulings to remedy this. So there's no color limit on the cards. So you could play, it doesn't matter what color your leader is. You could play any color, any card that you pull, And then also, there's no card copy limit. So then if you pull like 5 of a card you want to run, you could run 5 of that card. And then also for this tournament, you could bring any leader you want. So if you've been to a previous pre-release event tournament and you pull the leader, you could use that. But of course, you could even use the past leaders. So any of the OP01 leaders you could bring and make a deck out of that. And that's what I actually wanted to talk about next, because you can't really control what cards you get and, you know, how they're going to interact with the other cards that you pull in your deck. So I wanted to talk about what potential leaders that you can run that will give you like some sort of an edge, if at all, for winning the tournament, right? Because leaders are something where they're very reliable, and depending on what leader you have, your leader skill might give you value throughout the game, or, you know, maybe it gives you value like throughout one part of the game that's crucial. So I'm just going to talk about what potential OP01 leaders you can run, and then also what potential OP02 leaders you can run if you end up pulling those cards. So in terms of OP01 leaders, I think you're going to want to stray away from all of the dual colored leaders. This is because starting at 4 life in this tournament is going to be such a pain, because, you know, you can't really, since you can't control the amount of defensive cards in your deck, if you have like all aggressive cards or cards that won't really help you, like 2k counters, maybe counter events, blockers, if you don't pull any of those, you're just going to die way faster and have less resources to get from your life pool. So I think you guys should really stick with the 5 life leaders, and that's really going to help us narrow it down for us. So I picked both red leaders because they just have really good general effects that are going to be relevant throughout pretty much the entire game. You're going to be using these leader skills every single turn. For, you know, Luffy, you're going to be attaching that extra Dawn. For Zoro, I think you could actually come up with a strategy where like you just go wide on your board with like all your common cards, attach one onto leader, and then just like full swing with a board. I think that's going to be a really good strategy because that's very consistent. It doesn't like rely on you gaining or like pulling certain cards, right? You just have to pull the cards that are like around 3 cost and just full swing with your board. I also picked green because, again, that effect, you know, it's relevant potentially throughout the entire game. It's also really good for closing out games. So, you know, if you're maybe having trouble getting attackers on board, maybe you just full swing with Kid like for 2 turns in a row. That's a lot to deal with for the decks, especially if they are not constructed correctly or they're just like a bunch of vanillas. You know, it might be worth it to just swing or double swing every turn. And then of course I picked Crocodile. This one is probably the least viable out of the other three I mentioned, just because you go Dawn -4, which is not too good. But of course, like, you could get a lot of value from bouncing your opponent's card back to their hand. And if they've constructed a deck that's like mostly lower cost cards or middle cost cards, you're going to gain a lot of value just bouncing back cards, progressing your own board, and then just swinging. Because I feel like most of the cards really aren't going to have a lot of synergy, so a lot of vanillas are going to be coming out. Odin is probably not going to be something you're going to want to run. And this is the same with Kinemon, actually, because their card types are specifically for Wano country type cards. And if you look at the OP2 cards, there are not a lot of Wano country type cards. And a lot of them are actually like rare and above, like Yamato and Odin, I think, are the only... it's Yamato, Odin, and Kazuki Toki are the only Wano country cards that you can run. So it's not really going to apply to a lot of cards in your deck, their effects, I mean. So you don't want to be running the Wano leaders. You don't want to be running any of the purple leaders, because of course Kaido going Dawn -7 while you don't have any ramp is really awful. And you don't have the same board presence as you do with purple. And of course with King, his effect is okay. Like, you're making everything -1000 on your turn, but it's not relevant throughout the game until you get that 10 Dawn. So I just think running Zoro is way better. One leader that I think was like kind of on the brink of being playable is Doflamingo, because there are actually a lot of 7 Warlord cards in this set, but it's so inconsistent to get that effect, and I don't think it's going to be worth it because there's such a limited amount of ways you can stack it, so you're probably just gonna whiff a lot of the time. And I just don't recommend you play Zoro. I think sticking to these 4 leaders for OP01 leaders is gonna be the way to go. So let's look at some potential OP02 leaders that if you pull them, go ahead and bring them to tournament, play them if you want to. I know I said dual color leaders are probably not the way to go, but Sanji's effect, honestly, I think might be a little bit worth it because it works off vanilla cards that don't have effects, which you're gonna see a lot of since most of the pulls that you get are gonna be common and uncommon. So I think if you pull leader Sanji and you pull a bunch of vanilla cards, it might be worth it to run him. Not too sure on that, but it would be. I think he's the most viable dual color leader to play. And also we have Ivankov. Ivankov is just cool because there's not a lot of card draw, in the game in this format because you don't really necessarily know what you're gonna be pulling into. And I could definitely imagine a situation in the game where you're kind of in top deck mode with your opponent. And if you're playing Ivankov in that state, it's actually really, really good because you're going to be drawing 2 cards instead of 1 extra card. And on the crackback, when you have 0 cards, you'll have 3 cards to work with. Your opponent will have 1. So it might potentially be really, really good. The other leader I wanted to talk about, honestly, probably on the brink of being unplayable is Smoker. What Smoker does is if he has a Dawn under him, you could lower the cost of 1 character on your opponent's side of the board. And if there's a 0 cost character on the board, you gain plus 1000 on your leader. And I think this can be potentially very useful since you could swing for 7k each turn, which is pretty threatening, honestly. It demands 2 cards out of their hand or a counter event. But again, it might be a little bit difficult because it's reliant on your opponent's plays. So in general, I think the OP1 leaders are going to be more useful overall because their effects are very generally good and they're very broad. The OP02 effects are a little bit more niche. So it's kind of hard to construct a deck around them if you only have a limited amount of cards. So some other leaders that come up are Whitebeard. I don't think Whitebeard is going to be super playable, even though he's at that 6k attack and that 6 life, because losing a life every turn without having the awesome defensive options that Whitebeard has is going to be very difficult. You also might not have access to 9-drop Whitebeard, which is one of the best cards in that deck since it brings you up to 8k. It makes you Eustace Kid on your leader, but it's an SR, so it's going to be harder to pull. And again, like I said, Kinemon probably isn't going to be that useful because his effect doesn't come into play that often since there's a limited amount of Wano Country cards in set 2 that you're going to be choosing from. I think it's literally only Kazuki, Toki, 8-cost Odin, and the new 4-drop Yamato, which are all really good cards. It's just, the chances of you pulling them are kind of low compared to everything else. So that's going to be the end of this video today, guys. But let me know what you think. What leaders are you guys running? Do you guys have any strategies that you're coming up with? I think off the top of my head, Minotaur is probably going to be a really funny card to run since he has double attack. He might get you a lot of tempo if they don't have blockers. But yeah, just let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for all the support you've been giving us. Getting us to 450 subs means a lot to us. And honestly, let's try to get to 500 by the end of March. That would be super awesome. But as always, guys, good luck on whatever you're doing in your life, working, your exams. Just keep on pushing, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I think the next video is actually going to be another gameplay video for those of you that have missed those on the channel. Don't worry, one is on the way. It's Dofi versus Kaido part 2. So see you guys on the next one, and you guys have a great day.